My name is Ella Winters. I'm 28, Harris to the Winters Group. My father always said I was born lucky. I started at a finish line most people spend their whole lives trying to. Ricky ones can stumble. 3 years ago my father fell seriously ill. The company wasn't gathered alone, so we made a deal. The contract. Lehman Sterling, my husband. Name only.
Miss Winters, Mr. Sterling's in a serious car accident on Center Avenue this morning. He's out of immediate danger, but he suffered severe trauma to the head.
Is he okay? Is he awake? Can I see him?
He's awake, but Miss Winters, please prepare yourself. He kept the board in check for me, and I gave him generous pay and his freedom. When the term ended, we'd part ways amicably. Today is that day. I'd even packed his bags. I had my opening line ready, polished, crisp like the closing statement of a business negotiation. Your test results came back. It's not good. The doctors called Liam's accident an accident. But when I went to the crash site, I realized that was total BS. The skid marks on the pavement didn't add up. They weren't a swerving arc from loss of control. They were a straight, deliberate line cut in from the rear side. Someone had rammed him with precision. I crouched by the guardrail, ran my finger along that scratch, and suddenly remembered something Liam had taught me. He used to be an intelligence analyst and had shown me basic scene assessment. He said skid marks never lie. I stood up and traced that path over and over. Then I checked the traffic cameras. All 3 on that stretch had been under system maintenance that very morning. Nothing recorded. 3 at the same time? If I bought that, I'd be the biggest fool on the planet. Someone wanted Liam dead. Or maybe they wanted me dead. With Liam down, I was crippled. And Marcus Weber, the vice chairman who had his eye on my father's seat for years, couldn't quite hide the smirk on his face at the board meeting after Liam's accident. That curve of his lips, I'd never mistake it. I had no proof, but I knew he was pulling the strings. Standing at the empty intersection, wind hitting me from every direction, I felt for the first time how cold this city I'd grown up in could really be. Marcus Weber had been waiting for his day for a long time. The moment Liam was hospitalized, he called an emergency board meeting with a perfect excuse. The company can't be left without leadership. Mr. Sterling needs rest, and Ms. Winters needs less on her plate. Less on my plate? He'd love to throw me right off the plate entirely. I'd spent the whole night memorizing script. Liam had taught me that in these situations you start with understand everyone's concerns, then present facts, to end with a firm restatement of your position. I had it down cold. But the moment I walked into that room and faced 6 pairs of scrutinizing eyes, my mind went completely blank.
Ella, with Liam absent, can you really handle it alone? You can't even explain the data sources on this quarterly report. Ella, a woman like you, without Liam by your side, do you really think you can carry the Wintz Group?
You came out of a woman yourself! The room went dead silent for 3 seconds. Then Marcus laughed, and that laugh sent a chill down my spine. After that, every word got torn apart, and I realized something terrifying. All those polished, unassumable speeches I used to give, Liam had written every single one of them in advance, without him and even put together one solid counterpunch. That meeting was a total disaster for me. After being ousted from the president's seat, all I'd do was struggle back and forth between the hospital and the office. Liam was still recovering. He couldn't remember anything. Didn't even know who I was. But every time I showed up at his hospital room door, his gaze would linger on my face for just an extra 2 seconds. One afternoon, I got this random idea to peel an apple for him. I'd never taken care of anyone in my life. Even my coffee used to be brought to me. Back when I was sick with a fever, Liam stayed by my bed for 3 days straight. Peeling fruit, bringing hot water, shooting away all the annoying visitors. Now the tables were turned, and I couldn't even peel one lousy apple. The peel once, twice, 3 times. The blade nearly nicked my thumb. I was so frustrated I wanted to hurl the apple across the room, but I held it together. I couldn't embarrass myself any more in front of him.
Are you trying to peel that apple or murder it?
I looked up, ready to glare at him, but then I saw the crinkle around his eyes, and the comeback died in my throat. For the first time, I noticed the little fine lines at the corners of his eyes when he smiled. Even in that unfamiliar body, the curve of his smile was exactly the same as before. My nose stung, and I quickly looked down, pretending to keep peeling.
Hey, it's actually pretty sweet.
No kidding, of course it was sweet. I picked it out myself. My father was in the same hospital, and his condition was getting worse by the day. The doctors said it was natural organ failure, but something felt off. Late that night, I came out of the restroom and walked down the hall toward my father's room. When I got to the door, I suddenly froze. The door was slightly ajar, and through the crack I saw a nurse, her back to me, bent over, pushing a clear liquid from a tiny syringe into the IV port. On the bed, my father started twitching slightly, his lips turning purple. My pupils dilated. I flung the door open and rushed in. The nurse spun around. Our eyes met. The syringe slipped from her hand, hit the floor, and shattered. "What are you injecting into him?"
Miss Winters, I was forced. Someone paid me $300,000 to add something to the IV. I don't know what drug it is. I don't know who it was. Please don't call the police.
I won't call the cops, but from now on you do exactly what I say. Use that contact info and trit all the way up. She nodded frankly. I stood up and looked at my father still trembling on the bed, and a chill ran through my whole body. Someone wanted not just my company, but my father's life, and I had a pretty good idea who that someone was. Before I could even figure out who was behind the nurse, Marcus had already made his move. He called in another board meeting. I sat in my seat with a thick report spread out in front of me, the cover blasting in big red letters, Quarterly Irregularities Report. Marcus slid the document to the center of the table, as calm as if he were making a move in a game he'd already won. 6 months ago, I'd signed off on a project document. Lethan had told me back then, you should double-check those numbers. Good enough. Now that same file had been dug up and turned into a 30-page major management error. Losses, $36 million. Marcus read it out loud, page in front of every director. By page 3, 2 of the directors were already shaking their heads. I tried to explain, tried to argue, but the signature on that document was mine. There was no way out.
You're young. We all understand.
He said my name like a kindly elder, but I could hear the knife hidden in his voice. He pointed out that the project approval only 30 minutes. Did he need to remind me where I'd been that afternoon? My face went pale. That afternoon I'd gone for a spa treatment, just because I didn't want to look bad at a dinner party. The vote came down 5-3. Marcus took the interim president's seat.
Ella, you did your best.
I forced a smile. Back home, I pulled every bottle of alcohol out of the fridge. I drank and drank until I passed out. I got demoted from president to an ordinary department manager. My office moved from the top floor to the end of the hallway on the 17th floor. Marcus probably thought if he tucked me away in a corner, I wouldn't be able to cause any trouble. He was wrong. After the demotion, I actually had time to walk around. I started visiting different floors and chatting with regular employees. I never used to do that. I used to only deal with reports and meeting minutes. I found her in the 17th floor cafe. Her name was Maya. She was a regular accountant with thick black-rimmed glasses, sitting alone in the corner every day, studying reports. I watched her for 3 days. She flipped through reports 3 times faster than me, and her highlights always hit the critical points. Excuse me, I see you sitting here with those reports every single day.
Miss Wins.
It's the Ella details. You pause for 2 seconds at the intimate division underlined something. That section is usually where they hide problems. You actually know finance? Just learned it. Didn't before. Actually, the Q4 revenue curve in that division doesn't make sense. I think money's being circled around, but nobody listens to me. My boss says women can't understand big data. Your boss is a guy?
Yeah.
Funny. My boss is also a guy. We looked at each other, and Maya cracked off first. We talked for 3 hours that afternoon. I knew I'd found my first ally on this battlefield.
The day Liam was discharged, the weather was perfect. I waited for him at the hospital entrance, watching him walk out step by step. His pace was still a little slow but steady. He paused at the top of the sky like he was seeing it for the first time. He came down the steps and stopped right in front of me, close enough that I could feel his presence. The wind ruffled his hair, and his gaze swept over my face before landing on the car behind me. Welcome home. No extra words.
Okay.
But as he walked around to the passenger side, he glanced back at me. That made my heart skip. It was the kind of look you only give someone you're willing to trust. That night at home, I told him everything. Marcus's relentless pressure, my father's illness, my lost position, that ridiculous audit report. He listened without missing a word. Then he gently took my hand and said,
I don't remember the past, but right now, I'll still help you.
I looked up at him. His expression was calm and earnest, and suddenly I felt like I wasn't fighting alone anymore. We talked late into that night. Drawing on whatever business instincts he had left, Liam sketched out a map of Marcus's network on paper. Arrows, question marks, circles all intertwined. I'd never seen him so focused. When he thought, he'd tap the desk lightly with his pen, and if he got a name wrong, he'd correct himself instantly. It hit me then. Over the past 3 years, how many nights like this had I missed out on? Why are you helping me? You don't remember anything. You could walk away, no one would blame you. Marcus wouldn't bother a guy with amnesia.
When I woke up, the first face I saw was yours. Your apple peeling was terrible, but you were the only one who peeled one for me.
I laughed, but my eyes started to sting. You know our marriage was a contract, right?
I know. But contracts can be renewed, or rewritten into something else.
I froze, my heart racing. Was he imagining what I thought he was? I didn't dare ask it. If I did, even this helping relationship we had now might disappear. That night, I slept better than I had since my father first got sick.
Liam's first working day after discharge, he stayed up all night to put together a memo for me, full analysis of Marcus's recent investment moves.
When I see numbers, my brain just connects the dots automatically.
I used to sit at the head of the table during meetings, listening to reports, and just say, let's go with that.
Now I sat at the far end of the conference room, watching Marcus's people present while I secretly took notes underneath the table, how they talked, how they packaged data, how they filled time with fluff. I was learning all over again, like a first grader starting from scratch.
What did you learn today?
I'd tell him one detail, and he'd add 3 deductions.
I'd look at his profile and think, why had I never bothered to really listen to him before? That morning, he handed me a new memo.
You stay home and rest today.
What's your plan for dealing with Marcus at the office?
Not dealing. I'm going in to learn.
The way you said that is different from before. You used to say, I'm going in to crush them. Now it's learn.
Maya is the deep insider I've planted in the company. On paper, she's the most visible clerk in accounting, but in reality, she's been helping me audit the books every single day. That evening, she texted me just 4 words. I found something. I grabbed my coat and ran to her. She locked the accounting office door, turned her laptop screen towards me, and there it was, a complex map of fund flows. On the surface, it looked like normal client transactions, but Maya had color-coded the ACT group, passing through 3 shell companies and ending up entirely in a controlled personally accord sweat. The remaining core evidence is encrypted, pointing at the locked folder icon on the screen. I don't have the clearance to open it.
Get someone to crack it. I'll foot the bill.
That was the first time I truly understood. When the truth is that close, it terrifies you. You're scared you might not hold on to it. But I told myself, this time I'm not running. I hired an outside hacker team to crack the encrypted file. They'd only been working for 3 days when Marcus' people traced them back. That night I was sitting in my office when my phone screen lit up. A message from an unknown number. I picked it up and read it, and my fingers went instantly cold. I stared at those words for a long time, my fingers numb with cold. I wanted to call Liam, but I held back. He'd just been discharged, still recovering. I couldn't keep dumping everything on him. I sat in my office till 2 in the morning with thought about a lot of things. My father lying in that hospital bed, Liam's accident scene. Then I called Maya.
Grace was groggy with sleep, but after 3 seconds of silence, she was wide awake.
I'm a little scared.
Good. Being scared means we're on the right track. Listen, Ella, you're not alone. We're going to win.
That night I slept on her couch, and she covered me with a blanket. That business gala was the event of the season. Every entrepreneur in the city was there. Crystal chandeliers lit up the entire ballroom. Marcus was working the room in a navy suit, his silver-rimmed glasses glinting under the lights, smiling with that cheap charm. I wore an emerald green gown, a full hour on my makeup, practiced my smile angle in the mirror a dozen times, telling myself, "You're Ella Winters. You were born for this." The second I stepped into that ballroom, I still felt like everyone's eyes were daggers. I grabbed a champagne flank, steeled myself, and walked over to senior media editor, hoping to salvage some of the company's reputation. But Pinta's smiles was warm enough. We exchanged Sharp's Linus Linenturf project. I racked my brain recall Liam's memo, launched into explanation.
Ella, that ROIO you mentioned, this project is a long-term asset. Shouldn't you be looking at ROE? Your calculation seems to have mixed up principal and profit, don't you think?
My face burned. My mind went blank. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. The condensation on my champagne glass slid down my fingers, cold enough to jolt me. Just as I wished the floor would swallow me up, I felt a hand gently press against my back. I turned my head. Liam. I had no idea when he'd showed up, but his expression was as calm as if he'd been standing there the whole time.
Ella was referring to the project's early-stage cash flow estimate. She used a dynamic evaluation model that factors in time cost. As for long-term ROE, we do have another internal model, but it's not really relevant to the partnership we're discussing today. If you're interested, we could set up a separate meeting sometime.
The editor's eyes lit up. Clearly, she was impressed by the term dynamic evaluation model. She nodded, chatted a bit more with Liam about industry trends, then raised her glass with a smile and moved on. I stood there beside him, not having said a single word the whole time.
You know what? Those people are just potatoes with eyes.
What?
All they do is stare, they don't think. They nod at whatever they hear. How are they any different from a row of potatoes at the market?
And what about me?
You're the cutest chef in the whole room.
When did you get here?
I was here when you walked in. I've been watching you from the back the whole time.
That night I closed 2 partnership deals. Not by luck, but because of those few key phrases Liam had planted in my head, and that line about being the cutest chef. The next evening, my father suddenly regained consciousness. The doctors called it a rally, that Lionel burst of clarity before the end.
Ella,
Dad, I'm here.
you are my most beloved daughter.
I'd never heard him say that before. He'd always worn a stern face, telling me I wasn't good enough. I always thought he'd never be proud of me.
I'm sorry for making you carry so much alone. Dad believes in you. You can do it.
No, Dad. Don't leave me. Liam walked in from the doorway and gently lifted me from the bedside. That night, I sat on the hospital-quartered bench. Liam sat beside me. He didn't say I'm sorry or it'll be okay. He just sat there, his hand holding mine the whole time. The day of my father's funeral, a light rain was falling. I wanted to say, I'll tech the company, and I'll be fine, but in the end I said nothing. The wind blew rain against my face, and I couldn't tell if it was rain or tears. Just as I was about to leave, I heard rustling from the bushes beside the headstone. I looked down. A tiny golden retriever puppy was huddled there, covered in mud, so skinny you could see its ribs, looking up at me. Its eyes were big and round, full of fear, but with a tiny flicker of cautious hope. Liam came over, crouched down, and reached out his hand. The puppy hesitated for a few seconds, then slowly crawled out. It touched his fingers with its nose first, then dove straight under my umbrella.
It chose you.
I crouched it down so light like a ball of yarn. It buried its head in the crook of my arm, trembling all over. Suddenly, I felt like a stone in my chest had loosened. Liam took the puppy and wrapped it in his jacket. I named it Buddy. The 3 of us, 2 grown-ups and 1 scuffy little dog, walked down the cemetery steps together as the rain slowly let up. After my father passed, I inherited all his personal shares. Combined with what I already had,
I became the company's largest individual shareholder. Marcus started to panic. He did something. He had a fake code forged to dilute my stake and funnel the money into a foundation under his control. The date on that phony document was 3 days before my father died. He thought I'd be too deep in grief to notice. He was wrong. I'd spent so many nights by my father's bedside that I remembered every detail of his signature. He always drew a wavy line underneath his name. That fake document had a bare signature, nothing underneath. I slapped the document on Marcus's desk.
Your father signed that himself.
My father's signature has a wavy line. This one doesn't. You lose. That was the first time I saw that composed mask of his crack. That night, I sat on the carpet reading, and Liam placed a cup of hot tea beside me. There was an empty space between us, and Buddy was sprawled out there on his back, belly exposed, sound asleep. I reached over and scratched his tummy.
I have this image in my head. You sitting on the floor reading, me next to you going through papers, Buddy lying in between, exactly like right now.
You used to rarely hang out here with me. You were always in the study working late.
Really?
Yeah.
Then I guess it's because when I'm here I get distracted.
I lower my head and pretend to be indifferent. I wondered, if he did remember, what would come back? All the times I'd lashed out at him, or the thank you I'd never once said? Maya was passing by Marcus's office when she heard an argument inside. She pulled out and recorded it. It was Marcus and Director Lohan going at it.
Lohan, I can let your wife know about your outside activities any time I want. All you have to do is stand with me on the next vote. That's a threat. It's a reminder.
Now we've got leverage. I listened to the whole recording and sat on the couch without moving for 10 minutes. Lohart was an old friend of my father's. He wasn't a bad guy, he was just scared. Scared of his family being destroyed, scared of his reputation being ruined. I understood that fear. Marcus used fear to control him. I was going to use trust to pull him back. I made 3 backup copies of the recording, one at home, one in the cloud, and one with Lethal. I arranged to meet Lohart at a very private club. He walked in looking terrible, and his hands were shaking as he sat down. I didn't play the recording, and I didn't say a single threatening word. Uncle, my father trusted you more than anyone. If he knew what you've done, he'd be heartbroken.
Ella, I had no choice. Marcus has dirt on me.
You do have a choice. Stand with me, and I promise no one will ever know about your situation. I'm not using that recording to threaten you. I'm using it to save you.
You can really do that?
I swear it on my father's name.
Okay.
When that word left his mouth, I suddenly felt I wasn't alone on this road anymore. Maya, Liam, Buddy, and now Lohart. One by one, they were all standing beside me.
Liam tapped into his old network and found a key person, the middleman Marcus had hired years ago to coordinate with the nurse. That guy had been hiding for 8 years in a rundown motel on the outskirts of town. When Liam found him, he was so terrified he tried to bolt out the back window.
I'm not here to arrest you. I'm here to save you. When Marcus falls, you want to hide for the rest of your life.
That man sat on the bed and smoked an entire scheme against Tegrity Stories my father 8 years ago.
It wasn't the spur-of-the-moment thing, but a carefully laid plan step by step.
He didn't my father dead right away. He wanted him to wither slowly, leaving the company leaderless while he climbed his way up. It was late at night when Liam brought the recording back to me. He stood at our doorstep, his clothes wet.
Ella, the chain of evidence for your father's murder is complete.
I looked at his damp hair and suddenly wanted to hug him, but I didn't move. I stood there gripping that recorder and told myself, Ella, you can't cry yet. You still have to walk the final stretch. We leaked part of the truth through the media, and it made the front page, a report on financial regular the Winners Group. Marcus was so furious he slammed his desk in his office. But he didn't lose his cool. He immediately hired the most expensive legal team in the city and filed a defamation lawsuit against me. When the subpoena landed on my desk, I picked it up, read it, and set it aside. I wasn't angry, I even smiled, because I knew the more frantic he got, the more it meant we'd hit the right spot. If he weren't genuinely scared, he wouldn't have pulled such a heavy move. If I lost that defamation, I wouldn't just have to pay damages, I'd go to jail. He was using that knife to intimidate me, but I wasn't scared anymore. I sat in my office looking at that subpoena, and my father's last words echoed in my head, Dad believes in you. I folded the subpoena and put it in my drawer, then started preparing my defense. For the first time, I felt that the name Ella Winters was no longer just a surname my father gave me. It was a responsibility I carried on my own. On the day of the trial, Liam didn't show up. He left me a note on the shoe cabinet by the entrance. I stood outside the courthouse and read that sentence 3 times, then folded the note and tucked it into my pocket. My legs were shaking as I walked into the courtroom, but I didn't stop.
The courtroom was packed. Maya showed up and gave me a thumbs up from the very back row. I smiled back at her, then glanced to the side. That seat was empty. In the first half of the trial, Marcus' legal team went all out, leaving nothing standing. I sat there, 7 smug faces across the room, digging my nails into my palms, telling myself not to cry. But out of habit, I glanced over at that empty seat. He'd never left me to stand alone in a place like this before. At every board meeting before, he'd been right by my side, whispering in that low voice, say this next. Now he wasn't here, but he was out there fighting for me.
Your Honor, we request a recess. We have new evidence on its way.
Liam went to an abandoned warehouse. He drove there alone, following the address the middleman had given him, and Buddy insisted on jumping into the passenger seat. It has now grown into an adult long that day. He might not have made it back. Inside the warehouse, he found a different angle, footage of the crash tag of cash to a man in black, who turned out to be the driver that had rammed into Liam. The moment he slipped the tape into his jacket pocket, 4 or 5 thugs blocked the warehouse entrance.
Drop the tape.
The ringheader said, "Drop the tape," and the men closed in on him. Liam stood alone in the dust of that abandoned warehouse, zipped up his jacket, and pressed the tape tight against his chest. Then Buddy stepped out from behind him, a golden retriever, his fur bristling under the dim light, baring his fangs, and nobody wants a rabid dog sinking its teeth into their calf. They all took half a step back. Liam seized that split-second opening, bolted for the car, and floated the gas pedal. After driving a few miles out, grabbed Buddy's head and planted a big kiss on it. With only 7 minutes left in the recess, a gray sedan screeched to a halt outside the courthouse. Liam jumped out, clutching that videotape. The sight of him sprinting down that hallway, I'll never forget it. The tape played in court. The man in black took the money and got into the car that had rammed Liam. Marcus's face went from calm to ashen in a single second. The judge ordered his arrest, and as the bail his head like a tiger that had lost its fangs. I thought it was over. But late that night, Marcus was bailed out with a huge sum of money and fled from a private airport under cover of darkness. I woke the next morning to find Liam sitting in the living room, his phone screen flooded with news alerts, Winters Group as to Webern on the run.
He'll be back.
I know. We'll wait.
Buddy jumped onto the couch and plopped down between us. After Marcus fled, the company's stock price plummeted like a roller coaster. The media swarmed the headquarters like sharks smelling blood. That day I stepped out of the elevator and got mobbed by dozens of reporters, with microphones shoved almost in my face. I was backed all the way against the wall. Then Buddy came charging in. I have no idea when he'd followed me out of the house. He pushed through the crowd, planted himself in front of me, tail raised, and barked at all the cameras. The reporters were startled by this sudden golden retriever and stumbled back. I looked down at Buddy. He glanced back at me, tail wagging like a little flag. Suddenly, I felt like there was nothing to be afraid of. That night, photos of beautiful CEO and her loyal daughter went viral, and the company's social media account gained hundreds of thousands of followers overnight. PR called it reverse marketing. I just knew that when I crouched down to boost for the company. An unexpected to pet Buddy image head that day, I truly felt a steady, calming strength inside me. The night before the shareholders meeting, I was preparing my speech in my office. I was so tired I fell asleep right at my desk. When I woke up, there was a jacket draped over me, Liam's jacket. He sat on the chair across from, resting his chin and looking at me. I had no idea how long he'd been there. I pretended to still be asleep, listening to the sound of his breathing.
Even if I don't remember the past, I know this person is the one I want to protect.
My heart skipped a beat. I didn't dare open my eyes. He stood up, pulled the jacket a little tighter around my shoulders, and left, closing the door gently. In the dark, I opened my eyes and reached out to grab the cuff of his jacket. It smelled like his usual laundry detergent, faint and clean, like a fresh white shirt. I thought to myself in the darkness, Liam Sterling, you better remember soon, because when you do, I have something to ask you. On the day of the shareholders' meeting, I wore a white suit.
White isn't good for meetings. It gets dirty too easily.
I said I'd wash it. As I sat on stage waiting for the results, I looked down at the form plan I've written myself. Every single page is the result of my own late nights over the past months. No ghostwriter. The numbers on the vote counter ticked up, 30, 50, 60. Finally, it stopped at 73. When the host announced I'd won, the applause was so loud it nearly blew the roof off. I stood up and instinctively looked to the last row. Liam was sitting in the corner, nodding at me, his eyes glistening. I stood on that stage, looking at all those people who used to call me that useless winter's airness. They were saying, Ella, you've changed. I knew I had changed because I'd fallen, I'd cried on the floor, and I'd sat on the steps in the sun waiting for someone. I'd learned how to be a president from scratch. Those experiences had turned me into someone else, someone I didn't hate. At the victory banquet, everyone congratulated me. I clinked glasses, smiled, and exchanged business cards with grace. 6 months ago, all that social fluff would have annoyed me. Now I handled it like a pro. Halfway through the banquet, I turned to look for Liam. He was standing in a corner, holding a glass of juice, staring at me. The way he looked at me was strange. Not his usual gentle gaze, but something deeper and more complicated. He suddenly put down his glass and started walking toward me through the crowd. He walked fast, bumping into a server's tray, champagne glasses shattered on the floor. He didn't stop. He came up to me, pulled me into a tight hug in front of more than 100 people, and held me like he'd never let go.
I remember everything. All of it, including that I love you.
I froze, then threw my arms around him and held on tight. Someone in the crowd started clapping, and the applause went from scattered to thunderous. I sobbed into his chest. He laughed softly in my ear and said sorry, but his arms only tightened. The first thing Liam did after recovering his memory was go over every detail. He stayed up all night, drawing a full-wall relationship map on the whiteboard in his studio. I leaned in to look.
There's one
As
more.
a director who'd always stayed neutral. He never sided with Marcus or me, and he always abstained from votes. I'd always thought he was harmless.
These are the most dangerous ones. He doesn't take sides because he doesn't need to. He sells all the inside fact to Marcus and reaps the profits from both ends.
I stared at that calm face on the whiteboard, and a chill ran down my back.
Ella, you look great today. He'd been a silent messenger right under our noses the whole time.
He's smarter than Marcus. Marcus does the fighting up front. This guy just counts the money in the back.
Then let's let him know Marcus is gone. Now it's his turn to step into the spotlight. To deal with Marcus Trejo, the accomplice, we use the simplest trick, lure him to trap. I had my assistant call Nick Neutral director and show Winters would lunch discuss the company future plan. He came, wearing his signature smile. I poured him water and chatted the cleanup after Marcus' escape. I presented a Kadzin approval zero document, the signature not Marcus, rather of the indudent Donsher. Had a froze mid-cake, and Billy sloshed. Maybe someone forged your signature, or maybe Marcus used in your damp. Worry, just help me look at a soroliti. I signed it, but I wasn't the mastermind. I just sold him the information. Maya was in the next room and recorded everything. The next day, that director submitted his resignation. I folded it and put it in my drawer next to Marcus's patina. Finally, clean.
On the first day, the company restructures and announced the reform plan, abolishing layers of approval processes, cutting 3 acting departments, and added a promotion channel for female employee. I didn't tell her in advance. I knew she was afraid she wasn't qualified enough. I was scared once too, but here I am standing anyway.
I'm too young for this position. I became president even younger than you. What are you afraid of? That night, I told Liam about everything.
You used to hate working overtime more than anything.
I don't hate it anymore. Now I know someone's waiting for me once I finish all the work.
On the anniversary celebration day, I stood on the stage and looked out at the crowd below. Maya knew exactly what I was going to do. She spent 2 whole weeks helping me plan everything. Today, we won't talk about annual perform results. We signed a 3-year contract 3 years ago. The contract expired, and I don't want to renew it. I want to sign a new document instead. Not a business contract, a real marriage certificate. Liam Sterling, will you officially and truly marry me?
I never told you. I've liked you for a very long time. I saw you ride your red bicycle on the lawn of winter 20 years ago. You fell off, cried, and ran away. I thought that girl was so lovely the moment I saw your back. I've waited nearly 20 years for this day, and you finally asked me.
Then say yes quickly.
I do.
Our wedding was outdoors. The weather was perfect. Sunlight filtered through the trees, scattered gold leaf on the ground. Maya ran around all morning with a walkie-talkie glued to her hand, but her makeup stayed flawless. When Liam leaned in to kiss me, I closed my eyes and smiled turretly, because right then I heard Buddy let out a woof as if to say, "Are we done yet? I'm hungry." At sunset, we walked along the beach while I was chasing seabirds like a furry maniac. I held Liam's arm and watched the golden line where the sea met the sky in the distant felt. All those tears, all those moments of being down on, they were all worth it. Not because I won the company in the end, but because I'd become someone I liked, and he happened to like that person too. Sunlight fell on the 3 of us, stretching our shadows long. No more contracts. Just us. My name is Ellie Winters. I went from a spoiled heiress who do her head and also lift it high. I didn't come the perfect president my father hoped for, but I became myself. And that self, as it turns out, is loved by someone.